Thank you. Thank you, first of all, to Romania for hosting us in this beautiful palace. It's overwhelming, I must say. Thank you to all of you for your overwhelming support today. I am humbled and honored for your vote of confidence. I don't think this is a personal success of Roberto or only of Roberto. I think your vote today, your overwhelming support, is a testimony for your satisfaction to the work of the Secretariat. So I would like to say thank you to all my colleagues, those who are here, those who are behind the scenes, those who have made sure that this meeting takes place. It's a testimony to the work of the Secretariat, who works sometimes in silence. There are some who are more visible, but they do an excellent work, and I can see that from all the reports I get from you, from the different committees, the different special representatives, you have always expressed great satisfaction with the work of the Secretariat. So thank you very much to Gustavo. I mentioned Gustavo because he's my deputy and he's a bit the leader of the team, but to everyone, I don't want to name all the names now, of the team of the International Secretariat. Thank you, Madam President, dear Pia, for conducting this process. I must say that since you've become president, you have created a very calm atmosphere in the Assembly, a less conflictual atmosphere. You have also brought politics at the center of our works. So I thank you in particular for conducting this process of my re-election, and Pascal Alizar, who's not here, who is our chair of the Rules Committee, who also supported you in making sure that everything is done by the book and everything is done according to our procedure. So thank you also to Pascal. This vote, for me, brings an end to 2 years of many professional and personal difficulties. I don't want to hide that. On a personal note, I think that I would like to thank some people who are very dear to me. Of course, my mom, my children, Marco and Matteo, Katia, and in the staff here, Dimitri and Shera, who besides being colleagues are also very strong personal friends who have helped me in very difficult times during the last 2 years. But I think now, as the French say, normally they say reculer pour mieux sauter. I think we've taken 2 steps backwards to better jump. So I hope the best is yet to come and ahead of us. My report has been distributed. You have read it. I don't want to take too much of your time in going through the report. I'll just highlight a few of the challenges we have in the OSCE. The first challenge is in the OSCE as such, the challenges of leadership. As you will have seen, you will have read, the 4 mandates of the top positions in the OSCE will come to an end on the 2nd of September. And the chairmanship from Malta has triggered the process to recruit new Secretary General, new Director of the ODIHR, Freedom of the Media representative, and High Commissioner for National Minorities. This is a very difficult process because it's a consensual process. Unlike here, where you can vote the Secretary General by majority, if we had the rules of the OSCE, I would not be elected today because I had 4 votes against. So in the OSCE, they vote by consensus, and this means that it's very difficult to find agreement because you have to have all delegations, including those who are not in the room, in that case, also those who are outside the room. And so you know what I'm referring to and you know what I mean. So you need to, of course, negotiate these also with those countries whom you have disagreement with. So you will appreciate how difficult it is to find consensus on these 4 positions. I am proud of the work of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and what you do on behalf of 1 billion citizens. I think we are very much on target on all the issues we work on. We have special representatives for all the main dossiers. We have ad hoc committees really triggering and targeting the main important issues and challenges we have, like migration, movement of people, the fight against terrorism, Ukraine, of course, climate change. We have the 3 committees that deal with the 3 dimensions of security. I think we have created for ourselves very good tools to deal with the security challenges that exist in this vast region. And I'm very proud of the work we do and the work that you do as parliamentarians. Up to yesterday, there were parliamentarians in Doha representing our assembly. Eddie Fry was also meeting NGOs here. So until the very last minute, to the annual session, our MPs have been busy, and you can see from our news from Copenhagen how many activities. Sometimes we really have challenges in deciding, do we put a photo or do we simply put text for all the activities the MPs have done, so not to offend one MP whose activity is not highlighted enough. So this is a testimony of a great, vital, and vibrant OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. And I hope that this Parliamentary Assembly also will be ready to step in case in September the OSCE as such will be paralyzed. Because a scenario that could come out is that in September, because of the lack of consensus, you will not have a Secretary General, you will not have a Director of the OD, you will have acting directors, acting heads of these institutions, which in some cases makes them very weak, because some of these mandates, like the High Commissioner for National Minorities or the representative of the media freedom, are personal mandates. So in order to carry out the mandate, you need a person who has a full mandate. If you have somebody who's just acting, that person can just carry out the work of the office, but cannot make statements, cannot take initiatives, cannot carry out what the High Commissioner calls the silent diplomacy. And that's where the OSCE parliamentary can come in. I think we should send a clear message from Bucharest that this parliamentary assembly is not ready to accept any blackmail or any games of not providing consensus for appointing the heads of institutions. And so if the OSCE will be in a vacuum of leadership from September, the president can appoint leaders of this assembly to speak like on these issues of national minorities or on issues of typical of the ODIHR, like freedom of the media and legal analysis that the ODIHR does. So all these things that the OSCE carries out, which will kind of be difficult to be carried out because there will not be titulaire in these positions, the Parliamentary Assembly will humbly, of course, and in cooperation with the Maltese chairmanship and the OSCE Secretariat, provide its availability to be ready to step in and provide political leadership to the organization. And for this, I'm very proud of what we do. I think it's been debated this morning. It's clear that we also need our own little reform of the rules. I welcome, Madam President, your initiative already in January and in April to start a discussion among the leadership of the Assembly, among the Bureau, to see where we are. I think this Parliamentary Assembly has, for many years now, carried out with the rules of procedures that were set by the UK clerks at the very beginning of the organization, but many things need to be revised. And I think they need to be revised. It's not only a question of rules, it's more a question of vision. Who we are, where we're going, what we want this assembly to do. Once we answer those questions, then the rules will follow. We will know how to adjust the rules and make them more positive. So I think the Parliamentary Assembly can come out of this Bucharest meeting with a very strengthened outlook. I think from a political point of view, it's been said, I imagine the President will continue unchallenged for the next year. So we will have a strong political leadership ahead of the year when Finland is hosting its the 50th anniversary of the organization, and we will do that with a Finnish president. Administratively, you have re-elected the Secretary General for a second mandate, and so I now have a number of years in front of me to provide stability to the organization. And financially, thanks to the work of Johan Buser, Gustavo, and Stephen, we have found a very good compromise on the budget. We have received new contributions from Luxembourg. I thank all those countries who have decided to bring up their contribution to 10,000 as it was called in for in a resolution in 2016. So I think also financially we are, notwithstanding the fact that one participating state is not paying its dues, I think we have found a very smart, clever, and generous, I would say, from some countries' way of providing finances to this organization. And be aware, I mean, the finances are mainly small finances. We're talking about a budget of 4 million euro, which is mainly to support the Secretariat, the travel of the members of the Secretariat in support of your work, to pay for conference room, fares, hotel rooms, and this kind of, and of course the salaries of the staff. So I think we come out of this Bucharest meeting with a strong posture. I've learned in these 2 years that there are many things that are important. I think transparency is important. I think respect of colleagues and respect of those who work for you is important. I think that the choice of timing is also very important when you do things. And recognize who your friends are is also very important. Some lessons I've learned in the last 2 years. So I leave you with that comment, and I am an eternal optimist. So I hope for this assembly and also for the region we work for, the best is yet to come. I'm ready for questions. Thank you. Thank you. Very briefly, to Bjorn Soder, head of the Swedish delegation. I couldn't agree more with you that we've spent too much time in discussing administrative issues, and also not only on the reform of on the re-election of the Secretary General, but also on all these supplementary items. As the President has suggested, I think in the future we ought to do these things more by silence procedure, so that the letter is sent out, delegations can comment beforehand, and then, you know, when we meet, we can just discuss politics, while the administrative issues can be dealt with an exchange of letters, of course, if there are things that need to be clarified. But I couldn't agree more. Just to give you an anecdote here, for me, this is the 11th secret ballot. 11th secret ballot, 9 of which were with a 2/3 majority, and only 2 were with simple majority in Luxembourg and here. Is this really the case, that you need to vote the Secretary General 11 times in the Bureau, then confirm, then here? I mean, there is only one candidate, but it's like a referendum, yes or no. No on what issues? Do I make, the representative of Latvia, my friend Richard, asked me, Roberto, will you make your program? Will you present your program? But I mean, if I make my program and you vote on my program, I'm not running for president. I am a civil servant who must make sure that the name tags are here, that the talking points are ready, that the venues are secured. I'm not going to give the vision of the Secretary General for the next 5 years. I don't think you would want to hear my vision, especially on some of the political topics that we have in this moment on the security challenges. So I think we ought to reform these rules. I totally agree with you. We need to look into our rules and say, okay, the Secretary General is selected by the Bureau, and then, you know, like presented to the Standing Committee, who can, you know, say yes, no. But these rules were changed because, I mean, we've only had one Secretary General before me, who was here for 24 years. So I think the rule change, and actually some of the contradictions, I must admit, in the rule, especially on the vote of the Secretary General, were introduced not totally with the free of mind, but more like how to prevent one scenario or another. So I couldn't agree more with you. I have been going through 11 ballots, I tell you, although I know more or less that I had the support of all of you, but it is kind of stressful, and it shouldn't be for a position of an administrative person. On the OSCE challenges, I hope you are more optimistic than me. I am an optimist by nature. I know how the consensus rule works, and I know the history. I remember in 2017, for 6 months, we didn't have heads of, when we were in Minsk, the annual session in 2017, I put 4 empty chairs to testify that the OSCE didn't have heads of institutions, because nothing was decided until Lavrov met with Kurz in Mauerbach in an informal ministerial meeting in July and gave consent to the new heads of institutions. And we saw the same movie, unfortunately, a horror movie, during the Albanian chairmanship in 2020, and it took a while until there was the consensus, and we've seen it last year in Skopje, where the renewal of the mandate was only done not even for an additional technical year, but 9 months, really kind of wanting to show. So unfortunately, in an organization which decides by consensus, we have to agree. Do we talk to those with whom we disagree, at least on administrative questions, or we don't talk? But they will always have the possibility to kind of put a veto and block the organization. Luckily, we don't have this in this parliamentary assembly, and I'm very happy to be here. On the OSCE detainees, thank you for bringing that up. This is a very strong issue at our heart. The president has met them together with a delegation of 4 members. I think Siv from Norway was also there, Luis Garcia and Mark from Belgium. We visited the Kiev in February. We met with the families of those who are detained, illegally detained by the Russian Federation. And we've done everything that is in our power, also in touch with the OSCE Secretariat. They are employees of the OSCE governmental side. So the Secretariat is in a weekly contact with them. Our colleague Francesco is also in touch with the Office of the Secretary General to kind of weekly present also the views of our president. So we have not forgot that, and we have that in mind. On the Mediterranean cooperation, and that's very important because indeed the OSCE is an organization that stretches from Vancouver to Vladivostok, but also has a Mediterranean dimension. We have been very active, I must say. I mean, since I've been Secretary General, we'd also observed the elections, not since I was Secretary General, but we observed the elections in Tunisia in 2011. When I became Secretary General, we hosted an event in Morocco in 2019. So we have engaged with Pascal Alizar. We were in Egypt, I think in 2018. So we have kind of engaged with the Middle East. I think a visit also to Israel and West Bank is in the making. In the future, we have been in contact with the authorities. So the fact that the President also has decided to dedicate a full debate on the 2nd of July on this issue. It shows like the first plenary this afternoon will be dedicated mainly to Ukraine because this is our biggest security challenges and concern, but also the Middle East will be given a prominent role on the plenary on the 2nd of July afternoon. And of course, we deal with the Mediterranean partners in our forum. I think when Ireland will host our autumn meeting, and thank you very much, Michael, for that, in Dublin in October, we will have a Mediterranean forum, and I think, and I hope the representative of the Mediterranean countries will participate into that. I think this is it on the Mediterranean. Thank you very much. I hope I answered all the questions.